Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3, online, espnevansville.com. We'll jump over to the world of baseball. Cole Claybourn sitting in studio with us, a rare in-studio appearance. Cole, feel free to throw those headphones on there and pull that mic up to you. For those that have listened to the show before, you know Cole has joined us from time to time. Big, huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, follows the team very closely, writes the High Sox Sunday blog at cardsconclave.com. You can also give Cole a follow on Twitter at @HighSock_Sunday. And thanks for the time, Cole. I know you got places to be, so we won't keep you very long. But excuse me, with this Wainwright injury, I think initially the thinking is that it's all doom and gloom for the Cardinals from here on out. Is it as bad? And obviously you don't want to lose a guy like Adam Wainwright, but especially for the entire season. Looking at that Cardinals team now without him, is it as doomy and gloomy as it may look at on the surface?
Well, it's not good, but it's certainly not the end of the world, in my opinion. And of course, that's sort of the optimist outlook on that. But the fact is, you know, we're 3 or so weeks into the season, and the Cardinals pitching staff as a whole, and you include the bullpen and the starters, have been arguably the best in the entire major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, other guys are pitching really well. Carlos Martinez put together what I think was his best performance his entire time as a Cardinal the other night. Went 7 innings, struck out 8, didn't give up a run. His maturation has been really good to see. Guys like Lance Lynn, Michael Wacha looks pretty healthy.
Right.
Probably the guy who's pitched the worst is John Lackey, who's probably the most experienced on the whole staff. So the problem with Wainwright is, I mean, he was the leader of the staff, and when you lose a guy like him for the entire season, it's going to be a lot of young guys that are going to have to step up with the additions of Lackey and those kind of guys. So it's good that they have Lackey to have that veteran voice, but in terms of pure talent, I mean, Lance Lynn and Michael Wacha are going to be their main horses, and Wacha's coming off of a shoulder injury, so you're kind of nervous about what he could bring. And other guys like Marco Gonzalez, who would be the next man up, he's dealing with a shoulder injury.
Mm-hmm.
Jaime Garcia is dealing with a shoulder injury. So they've got depth, but a lot of their depth is injured. So I think for the meantime, they're going to be okay. They're going to have other guys have to step up.
Now, speaking of those guys, I know they've got a couple guys down in the minors in Garcia and Gonzalez. There's some talk that I've read. Maybe one of those two guys gets a call up, but I know that each has their own maybe baggage that comes with them. I don't know if that's the right word to put with it. I know, Garcia's got a career 3.50 ERA. Gonzalez is currently sitting on the DL down at AAA because of a pectoral injury. Are either one of those guys, do you see them being called up to help fill this role, or what are your thoughts on them making a move up?
I honestly, I've lost all faith in Jaime Garcia. I've gone through 3 or 4 years of him constantly getting hurt.
Uh-huh.
When he's healthy, he's phenomenal, and his stuff is as good as anybody's. He has more movement on his pitches than I've seen of any pitcher. The problem is he can't stay healthy, and he's back hurt again. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound very optimistic at this point that he's going to be back anytime soon. Marco Gonzalez, I think, is eligible to come off the DL on Thursday, but wouldn't be ready. That's when Wainwright's next start would be. So I would imagine that they would try to buy time with a few of the other minor league guys. There's Tim Cooney, who's had a really good career as a AAA pitcher. I think he came up a little bit last year. John Gast has had a few spot starts in the major leagues. He'll probably be the one who starts on Thursday because that would be his spot in the rotation. Tyler Lyons is probably the most experienced out of those guys. He just pitched the other night, so they probably wouldn't use him. But I would guess those 3 guys would get the majority of their starts. They've also picked up Carlos Villanueva over the offseason, the former Brewers pitcher, Cubs pitcher, long reliever, but they brought him in there to be kind of a long reliever spot starter if they need it. So they've got guys that can buy that time. I would imagine the long-term solution would be Marco Gonzalez. He's by far the most conditioned for that spot, in my opinion. He's the most talented. He was the number 1 draft pick in 2013 out of Gonzaga. I would think that eventually, if he gets healthy, he'll be the guy that fills in for that spot. If you remember, he had a really good postseason last year. Was probably one of their best relievers throughout the postseason. But he is a starter. So, with Wainwright out, being able to add a lefty would be kind of a nice addition. Obviously, you're not adding somebody like Adam Wainwright to steal a line from Remember the Titans. You cannot replace an Adam Wainwright, but to have a guy like Marco Gonzalez, if he does get healthy, to have that talent, that would be a big help.
Yeah. Even healthy, though, he's got control problems. And his fastball, low 90s, best pitch is a changeup. I mean, can you work on that? Is that something? Because as a reliever, you can get away with it a little bit, but as a starter, you walk 4, 5, 6 guys and set up scoring plays, put guys in scoring position, that kind of thing throughout a 6, 7 inning outing. That can make a difference in a game.
Yeah, and he started several games last year due to injuries, and I thought he did pretty well. I mean, he was just a rookie, and whenever he's been in the minor leagues, he's been a pretty darn good pitcher. And the velocity, I think those are things that you can. I mean, with strength. I mean, obviously, whenever you get to the major leagues, a lot of times your velocity is what it is. I think you can add a couple miles per hour if you add strength and change your mechanics, but for him, I think he moves the ball around. I think he gets batters out. Simple as that. I mean, I think he's a good pitcher, and there's a reason why they drafted him in the first round. And I think over time he's going to be a really good pitcher for that rotation. And I honestly, I mean, I would expect them to maybe explore trade options. You're going to hear a lot of names like David Price and Cole Hamels, but honestly, I think the way the Cardinals have handled these types of things before, for the most part, has been to stay internal. And I would not be surprised if that's what they do again with this thing here. I mean, it is very unfortunate, especially because, I mean, Wainwright's had such a good career, and the last time they won a World Series, he was out for the whole year with Tommy John. And then when they won the World Series before that, he wasn't the starter, he was the closer. So, his whole career as a starter, he's not been able to kind of bask in the glory of leading the team to a World Series. And obviously, he's had his own struggles in the postseason as a starter. So you feel for him as the leader of the team, and just hope that with this sort of injury, you've seen what it did with Kobe Bryant, Ryan Howard, and other guys who've had Achilles injuries. You just hope that at his age, it doesn't derail him for too long.
Well, and for it to happen, too, while he was at bat and not, actually doing what his normal, not that batting's not part of his job, but it's not, obviously, with the pitcher, they're more concerned about the pitching part of it than maybe the batting part of it. Cole Claybourn from High Sox Sunday blog, cardsconclave.com, joining us in studio talking some Cardinals baseball, the effect of the Adam Wainwright injury. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3, and online, ESPNEvansville.com. There's been some talk, and this injury has renewed that talk. Max Scherzer came out and said something about it from the Nationals. Your thoughts on, excuse me, the National League maybe looking at bringing in DHs?
I don't know that I have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I do feel that to use this one example as a reason to advocate for the DH in the National League is pretty asinine. And to have a guy who just came to the National League this year to say that, granted he was with the Diamondbacks beforehand, but a guy who's been in the American League, I mean, if you don't want the DH, don't come pitch in the National League.
But the National League paid him a lot of money to come to the National League.
Yeah, they did.
But I mean, I'm a purist. I think a lot of people have made the argument that they don't like the idea of artificially creating runs, which is what sort of the DH does.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a National League fan because I like the aspect of the pitcher's batting. I get that you're not going to get the offense, and it's a much different game. But that's what I've grown up on. That's I don't particularly like watching American League games. And I just, for whatever reason, I don't look at this one issue and say, I mean, yeah, anybody can get hurt doing anything. And there's a funny Twitter account. This guy's name is Batting Stance Guy. I don't know if you've ever followed him, but he had some.
But I will today.
He had some funny tweets where he basically has cited fluke injuries from players like, so and so like popped the blood vessel sneezing. We should not allow sneezing in the National League. And then if you remember, Clint Barmist actually got hurt carrying like turkey or deer from Todd Hilton up the steps, like broke his foot.
Yep.
So I tweeted back at this guy. I said, yeah, the National League should ban grocery shopping for all National League players. I mean, guys are going to get hurt. It's just part of the game. And,
right.
You could look at anything. Guys have gotten hurt on the mound, so it's. I don't know that you can look at this one issue and say because a star pitcher like Adam Wainwright got hurt, we should absolutely have the designated hitter. I mean, sure, it would have avoided it, but they could get hurt out in the field as well.
Right. Well, I'm kind of with you on the purist thing or whatever. When you've got a DH, it also takes away that strategy late in the game on using pinch hitters, moving people around in the lineup because your pitcher's coming up, this and that. You hope maybe to get another inning out of the guy so I can get to him in the batting lineup before I have to bring in a reliever to relieve him. The AL doesn't have to worry about that because they're not going to bat. And I don't have a dog in the fight either way. But I think I agree with you that the DH could stay out. And obviously I agree that, you don't change it because of this one injury. But that changes kind of the whole strategy of the game late in the innings, does it not?
Yeah. And, I mean, I like the sort of chess match that goes on in the National League. I mean, keep in mind the managers that I've grown up watching, Tony La Russa and now Mike Matheny, who have been meticulous in their bullpen usage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I necessarily like that. I mean, it kind of drags the game on, but in a sense, I do like the chess match that goes on. I think sometimes the pitching matchups can be a little bit too much where you're bringing in one guy to face one batter, but you don't see that type of stuff in the American League because you don't have to worry about double switching, and I think it's a little bit tougher to manage in the National League because you've got a little bit more to account for. My thoughts really in general about the designated hitter is if you're going to add it in the National League and put it universally, I think it should be almost like where you allow a designated hitter for any position. You shouldn't just say it because of the pitcher. You know, I just think that that's sort of just a cop out, and there's people that can make that argument much better than I can. But I just sort of feel like if you're going to do it for that just one position, it just seems sort of arbitrary.
Well, they're all going to pick the pitcher anyway. The same way in the NBA, whenever they do the hack a Shaq or hack a whoever with San Antonio, obviously they're going after the lowest guy on the board. And if your pitcher, if you've got a guy batting lower than your pitcher. Overall, I mean, the first week or two of the season, maybe. But overall, if somebody's got a better batting average, a lower batting average than your pitcher, you need to bench him. So, I don't think that's an argument at all.
Hey, there are some pitchers that can handle the bat.
Well, there are.
Sure.
Oh, yeah,
No
absolutely. And that's the thing. A lot of those guys, in high school and whatnot, they were this big stud star. They were batting fourth in the lineup. They were starting every game they could. But then they step out of the plate and more on the mound, and that kind of goes away. But you guys could always go for John Lester. You
leave him alone.
I don't know that we would want him right now. I think Gavin can attest.
I don't think. I mean, you can have him. We'll take a broken Wainwright for John Lester.
Listen, I drafted John Lester, I believe in the second round of my fantasy team, and it's not worked out great for my team so far. I mean, I'm actually pretty baffled that, I didn't realize how bad his issues were at throwing over to first base until I watched the one where he just couldn't even.
Oh, yeah. It was a rainbow throw like a softball pitch and just sailed it so far over the first base.
He can't get the ball out of his glove now. He has to put the glove with it, which will lead to like curveballs with the glove as well.
I just love the fact Gavin puts that Cubs hat.
Listen,
he wears his Cubs hat today, not knowing Cole was stopping him.
I did not know you were going to be here today. I really did not. I walked in.
Then he puts it right up front.
I did do that on purpose.
I like your guys' office down here, but I think you could use a little bit more Cardinals stuff. Like maybe take this Cubs jersey down and then put another Cardinals one.
Since we have a Cardinals jersey beside that.
And I can hook you up with some Cardinals memorabilia if you need to.
I have cried many tears in that Cubs jersey. It will stay on that wall.
We did not actually have, the two of us did not, or three of us did not have a hand in decorating this studio. I don't know.
That's the only thing I brought. I brought that in behind.
Jimmy brought the Favre jersey in and some old footballs. But
Blue Cats football. Well, that's a relic from the past.
Yes, it is.
We're crunched on time, but I do want to ask you, in all seriousness, what do you? Are you concerned about the Cubs this year as a Cardinals fan? Because they're on paper look like they might do something this year.
They've actually played really well, and I'm concerned with them in the fact that the rest of the National League Central is not good.
Mm-hmm.
The Brewers are an awful baseball team. The Reds are a mess as a franchise right now.
Yeah.
The Cubs are actually playing really well, and I thought all along, and I think whenever you guys interviewed me over the winter, I think and I still feel this way. I feel like they're still very young, but they're talented enough that they're going to win some games they shouldn't win. They're going to lose a lot of games that they shouldn't lose because they don't have that experience.
Right.
But they're young guys. I've said from the minute that I started hearing about these guys that they're going to be awesome. I mean, I think Addison Russell's a great player. I think Jorge Soler, I've always said I feel like he's the next Vladimir Guerrero.
He's been fun to watch.
So I think that they're going to be good. Maybe not this year, although they are playing really well right now. I don't think that they're going to challenge the Cardinals this year, but I would say in the next 2 or 3 years it's going to be a pretty good race, which is good, I think, for the rivalry to have those two teams.
And that's my exact point, too. Maybe Cardinals fans won't want to admit it, but the Cubs being better just makes that rivalry better.
It makes my life better also.
How much fun can it be just smashing them apart every time you guys meet, which I know is not the case, but it does seem like for the last couple of seasons, the Cardinals have been the far superior team over the Cubs for one of the oldest and maybe best rivalries in the game. You need the Cubs to be good to keep that rivalry entertaining,
right.
I would think.
Right, I was disappointed. I went to the second game of the season at Wrigley Field, and it was terrible weather. It was a 2-0 game, no offense, just sat in the stands, and I was disappointed. I mean, the atmosphere was nothing because it was so cold, nobody was there.
Should have went to the first game. You couldn't have anywhere to pee.
I know. I'm glad I didn't go to that one. But this one, I mean, it was freezing cold. I didn't bring enough warm clothes to Chicago. But I'm hoping that eventually, whenever people go to Cubs Cardinals games, granted they're always good crowds, but it's felt like the bite from it has been absent. It just has not been the same the last several years because the Cubs haven't been as good. And I think sports are more fun when you've got rivalries like that to watch, even if the Cubs end up beating, which the Cubs usually do end up beating the Cardinals in the regular season quite often. But, just having that atmosphere, I think, back was going to be a really good thing.
Cole Claybourn, High Sock Sunday blog. Check it out, cardsconclave.com. Follow him on Twitter at highsock_Sunday. You must stop by more often, Cole.
All right, I sure will.
We should do this more in studio than over the phone kind of stuff when
Sounds
we can.
good.